This is All India Radio, Thiruvananthapuram. Good evening, dear listeners. In tonight's English program, listen to an interview with Anupama Raju in conversation with Sonya J. Nair. Writing is a skill which is acquired through constant learning, reading, traveling, and inculcating experiences in life. Putting the magical words together can transport us to another world. Any writing is an act of extraordinary dedication and discipline. Above all, it is an act of love for those whom it is meant to reach. A writer often lays bare their soul, narrates histories, lives, and speaks of the very essence of creation itself. Now, here with us today is one such writer, Anupama Raju, with a remarkable novel, Sea. She has created a world that is tangible, palpable, and very alive. Meet the author, Anupama Raju.
Anupama Raju is a poet, literary journalist, communications professional, and translator. She's a poet who's been widely anthologized, and her columns have appeared in The Hindu and Scroll.in. She's a Charles Wallace Fellow at the University of Kent, Canterbury, and she has also been writer-in-residence at Le Centre Intermondes, La Rochelle. Currently, Anupama Raju works in strategic communications at UST. She has a collection of poetry to her name. It's called Nair. But we are here today to discuss her debut novel, Sea. So before we begin, there's something I would like to ask you, Anupama. I'm given to understand that you're not a stranger to All India Radio. So perhaps you would like to, inform us about your relationship with AIR?
Thank you, Sonya. And it's such a pleasure to be here. Hello to all the listeners. Yes, you're absolutely right. I come from a family of broadcasters. And as a family, we share a very rich relationship with All India Radio. My mother worked in All India Radio, and then my grandmother, my grandfather, my grand aunt, my uncle. So all of them were with Akashvani. So it is very strange, and I feel really nostalgic being here in the studios of Trivandrum, where I used to spend my summer holidays as a child. So these studios and the smells and the corridors, they bring back a lot of nice memories. So yes, it is indeed a privilege to be here.
So coming to the novel Sea, which is, for the listeners, it's the alphabet C.
That's right.
Right? A very evocative cover too, I must add. So, what is the book about?
This is my first novel, as you put it. It's a novel written in prose and poetry. It's a bit of an experimental genre, so to speak. It is a book that tells the story of a nameless wanderer or a nameless writer who divides her time between two cities. And this city is called Sea. One city has the sun and the other one does not have the sun. And she is in the sunless sea to see if she can write. And that is how she's coming to terms with some of the grief that she goes through.
This persona of a woman on her own in a strange city, it's something that I've observed in your poems as well. And now, it's there in your novel, So I was wondering, what is the significance of the city as a motif in your universe?
Yes, I'm glad you observed that, because the city as an entity matters a great deal to me. And I think every city around the world has a lot of stories, and we all get influenced by those sooner or later. It's not just the people. In some sense, yes, I'm sure the people make up the history and the people give the stories to the cities that they inhabit. But the city has a character of its own, whether it's Trivandrum or Kochi or Chennai or Delhi, New York, whichever city we go to. Every city has something about it. So that has always mattered to me. And we are all travelers, and we all, we visit these places, we build homes in those places, we holiday in some places. But each time we go to a city, we bring back something of that, and it kind of becomes part of you in some way. So maybe that gets reflected in my writing as well. And in poetry, it has appeared in fragments, but in the novel, it has established itself more deeply.
So to dwell in detail on that, who is the individual in a city? That of a troubadour, a chronicler, a tourist, adventurer, or a person looking for themselves in the buildings and ruins of this city?
Interesting question. I mean, while all of them could probably be true, I would probably use the word traveler because that kind of encompasses all of it. The word traveler has a lot more significance and weight to it. Because when we travel, we observe and we absorb. And when we absorb, a bit of the city kind of becomes part of you. So for instance, if I were to go to East Fort in Trivandrum, there is something about that area. There is a lot of history. And I sincerely believe that you cannot make any progress in your life without being aware of your history. That awareness becomes critical for an individual to grow, is my belief, So the individual is an absorber, an individual is an archaeologist, an individual is a historian, an individual is simply a visitor or a traveler. That is how I would put it.
It's high time we have you read a passage from the novel for us, because in order to further absorb this idea that you're speaking about, I think it's important we listen to you.
So I'm going to read a small passage from the first chapter of the book. And like I said, the writer is the protagonist. She doesn't have a name. The book is written in her point of view. This particular passage talks about the perpetual night in the sea that she is in, the city that she is in. It's always dark because there is no sun. And any light is brought on by the electricity or by the moon. She is reflecting on the night, and she's also reflecting on how night as an entity has influenced her and her own writing. Despite the absence of the sun, I feel safe. The night is where I belong, in its dark alleyways and invisible hideouts. I remember Vasilisa the Beautiful, that Russian folk tale I used to read as a child. I recall the page showing a glorious horseman clad in black, riding his black horse, heralding the night, spreading terror as darkness fell. And as night fell, the witches' skulls would keep watch over Vasilisa. Their glowing eyes would light up the night. How spellbound I was by that page. The horseman in white, welcoming dawn, was not half as arresting as the other one. A scene from that story always remained with me. How Vasilisa the Beautiful found her way through the dark woods. The sky painted black on the pages of the book, the trees grey and shivery thin at night, half lit by the slice of a green moon. Day is mundane. Daylight is too bright. I think of all the times the word night has appeared in my writing. It has lent its wondrous onyx-laced shades to the metaphors and images I have labored over. The sounds, birds, hisses, animals and chills, life and the lack of it, silence and sleep. They were all there.
This liquid quality that your prose has, particularly while talking about the night or in general observing nature, found that to be captivating. So in that spirit, like you mentioned earlier, you have, melded prose and poetry. I found, echoes of the unreal city that Eliot mentions in your novel. So, there is this city, which is bereft of sunlight. There is a city which, has sunlight. There is a protagonist without a name. There is also a ghost. And, these and other assorted lives, occupy your novel. And, there's one thing while reading the novel that I was wondering, why the alphabet C? Why not any other alphabet? Why not C?
Why not C? Yeah, that's right. Well, C could stand for anything, really. I mean, we have so many cities that begin with the letter C. And I really wanted to kind of open it up to the reader's imagination because the reader plays such an important role in the interpretation of the book. And I sincerely believe that once you've written it and you've let it go, it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the reader. So the reader is free to interpret C in any form. I think I thought of C because C could stand for city, for instance, very simply. I think they're also C for curious, I guess.
It also makes one think, is C the mind that resides within each one of us? So I wanted to ask you, what do you think of your novel?
It's a very difficult question to answer because it obviously matters to me. And I did take a while to write this. It's a book that has evolved over time. It is also a very brave risk that I've taken, and which is why I'm thankful to the readers and the publisher who took faith in me to bring it out into the world. I look at it with some amount of distance now because, the book is out and it is no longer mine. I'm very protective about it, of course, but I also think that now I should move on to my next book very quickly.
This has been a very, very engaging conversation, I must say, Anupama. But unfortunately, we have to wind up now. So on behalf of C, what would you like to tell the readers as we depart?
The book ends with an epilogue. And the message, so to speak, is to travel. The idea of leaving the familiar and looking for rich experiences elsewhere is also central to the book. So I'm just going to simply read that and then maybe conclude. Epilogue. For the reader, for the traveler, hide that cash in a faraway place, knowing well it will be spent, like your youth, in search of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Tie up those shoelaces when they come undone, when they feel the new earth under. It is the same dirt, same dust on every land. Same wonder and doubt on every face wherever you go. Though skin might change with the changing season, polish your own till it shines. Let them see your country in you, and though you leave one day, you bring some of their dirt, dust, and skin back. You return, half here, half there. You live till you leave again, half here, half there.
After you read this, I don't know whether there's anything left to say, because that's very true, You come home after a long journey and you think you have washed off the dust and grime that you brought along, but that's not the case. Something always remains with you. So thank you, Anupama Raju, for sharing C with us, not just on this platform, but for placing a novel like this out in the world where it, I'm sure, is making a difference already. So you mentioned earlier that it is C for curiosity in some cases.
Maybe.
But I would say it's C for captivating.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Sonya. It's been a delight being in conversation with you. You have always been a sensitive reader. I thank you for that. Thank you, Akashvani.
That was Anupama Raju, author of the book C, sharing her wonderful experiences with Sonya J. Nair. Hope you all enjoyed this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for listening. This broadcast came to you from the Thiruvananthapuram studios of All India Radio.